I know you strive to live a life of virtue, of kindness and integrity, but here's something we often forget. Not everyone shares that same pursuit. While our natural instinct is to believe the best in others, holding on to hope that people are good at their core, the harsh truth is that some walk a darker path. If we're not careful, those with malicious intentions can seep into our lives, leaving chaos in their wake. Stoic philosophy teaches us to be vigilant, to prepare for the challenges life throws our way, and one of the greatest challenges is recognizing those who would harm us. Often they hide in plain sight. You've likely crossed paths with someone who, behind a friendly face, has no hesitation in exploiting others' weaknesses, hurting those around them without a second thought. These actions can be subtle, creeping into our lives before we even realize the damage being done. Today, we're going to talk about the undeniable signs that you're dealing with someone whose intentions are far from good. Whether it's a stranger, a friend, or even a family member, these people can threaten your peace, and it's essential to understand how to identify and distance yourself from them. The Stoics knew that not everyone we meet is guided by virtue. Some are driven by their worst impulses, and if we don't learn to recognize them, we risk being dragged into their negativity. And make sure to stick around until the end, because the last group we'll talk about are the most dangerous. They're the ones who cause the deepest harm and are often the hardest to recognize. So, let's break it down. By the end of this video, you'll be equipped with the knowledge to protect your mind, your heart, and your life from the influence of toxic individuals. But before we dive into the first sign, if you're someone who values wisdom and wants to navigate life with greater clarity, make sure to hit that like button. It really helps spread this message to more people. Let's get into it. Number 1. They take pleasure in others' pain. One of the clearest and most troubling signs of an evil person is their enjoyment of others' pain. It might sound shocking, but there are people who genuinely take pleasure in seeing others struggle or suffer. Now, this isn't always obvious. It's not like they walk around openly celebrating someone's misfortune. Often this behavior is subtle. Maybe they laugh a little too hard at someone's embarrassment, or they seem oddly happy when someone else is having a bad day. It's this quiet satisfaction they get from others' missteps or hardships that reveals something dark about their character. The Stoics believed that empathy and kindness are essential virtues. Marcus Aurelius reminds us that we are all part of one collective body, and when one part suffers, we all do. If someone is indifferent to that suffering, or worse, delights in it, it shows they've completely disconnected from what makes us human. Empathy is the core of our ability to connect with others and to live harmoniously within society. A person who lacks empathy, who feels joy when others are in pain, is a direct threat to that harmony. In Stoic philosophy, this behavior runs completely contrary to the principles of virtue. Seneca taught that we should aim to be of service to others, not to exploit their vulnerabilities. An evil person, on the other hand, sees vulnerability as an opportunity, an opening to make themselves feel superior. They may even go out of their way to create situations where others struggle, simply to watch the chaos unfold. This isn't just an absence of empathy, it's an active pursuit of other people's suffering. The thing about these individuals is that they often hide behind a mask of normalcy. They won't always make it obvious that they enjoy your struggles. In fact, they might even pretend to care. But over time, their actions reveal the truth. You might notice that they never really offer genuine support when you need it, or worse, they subtly make things harder for you, only to watch from the sidelines. This can wear down your spirit, erode your confidence, and make you doubt yourself, exactly what they want. But here's the Stoic truth. They only have power over you if you let them. We can't control the actions of others, but we can control how we respond. The more we focus on building our internal strength and fortifying our own sense of virtue, the less their twisted satisfaction can affect us. It's essential to recognize these individuals for who they are and take a step back from them. Protect your peace. Remember that their enjoyment of your suffering is a reflection of their own inner turmoil, not a measure of your worth. When you encounter someone who seems to take pleasure in your pain, don't get caught up in trying to change them or confront their behavior head-on. Instead, lean on the Stoic principle of apatheia, emotional tranquility. You can't change them, but you can refuse to let them disrupt your inner peace. Distance yourself, set clear boundaries, and focus on the things you can control: your reactions, your emotions, and your path to personal growth. Number 2. A constant need for control. Another unmistakable sign of someone with bad intentions is their relentless need to control everything around them. These people thrive on control, whether it's controlling situations, outcomes, or even other people. This need for dominance comes from a place of insecurity and fear, but it manifests as an obsessive desire to have everything go their way. The truth is, they feel powerless without control, and so they attempt to manage every detail in their environment, including the people in it. Now, this isn't the same as someone who likes to be organized or stay on top of things. This is far more insidious. Their need to control often crosses into manipulation, coercion, and emotional domination. Stoicism teaches us to focus on what we can control: our own actions, thoughts, and reactions. But here's the key: we can't and shouldn't try to control others. Epictetus famously said, "Some things are up to us, and some things are not." This is one of the core tenets of Stoic philosophy. When someone tries to control other people's choices, behaviors, or lives, they are not only violating that fundamental principle, but they're also creating toxic, suffocating environments. The problem with these individuals is that they don't see people as equals with their own autonomy. They see others as tools to shape their own reality. Think about that person in your life who always insists on deciding where to go, what to do, or even what you should be thinking and feeling. Maybe it's a friend who dominates every conversation, dismissing your opinions or feelings, or a coworker who insists that things be done their way, regardless of what the group decides. Worse, it could be a partner or family member who tries to control your decisions, who you spend time with, or how you live your life. Their need for control isn't just about maintaining order, it's about keeping you in check, about ensuring they have power over you. For these people, control equals security. They believe that if they can direct every aspect of your life, they'll feel safe. But Stoicism reminds us that this is a dangerous illusion. In trying to control others, they're actually showing how little control they have over themselves. The Stoics were clear. Real strength comes from inner mastery, not from dominating others. Marcus Aurelius said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Those who seek to control everything outside of themselves have missed this entirely. This controlling behavior can start small. At first, it might seem like someone is just taking initiative or being a leader. But over time, the need for control escalates, and you start to notice patterns. They might try to dictate how you spend your time, who you associate with, or even how you think. They'll disguise it as helping or looking out for you, but in reality, it's about keeping you within their sphere of influence. They can't handle the idea of you making independent decisions that don't align with their desires. One of the most damaging aspects of being around someone who constantly needs to control everything is how it erodes your sense of self. Over time, you might start doubting your own decisions, questioning your judgment, and even losing your confidence. This is exactly what they want: to make you dependent on them, to make you believe that without their direction, you'll falter. But the truth is, the more they try to control, the more fragile they reveal themselves to be. When you find yourself in the orbit of a controlling person, remember the Stoic principle of focusing on your own actions and thoughts. You are the only one responsible for how you live your life. No one else has the right to dictate your choices, and the moment you realize that, their control starts to lose its power. Set clear boundaries with these individuals, and if they persist in trying to dominate your life, don't be afraid to distance yourself. Your peace of mind and your personal growth are far more valuable than staying in the grip of someone who can't handle their own lack of control. Number 3. A strange feeling around them. Another powerful indicator that you're dealing with someone whose intentions aren't good is that you feel strange or uneasy around them, even when nothing seems obviously wrong. It's a subtle, almost invisible sign, but one that our instincts often pick up on before our rational minds can catch up. There's something about their presence that just doesn't sit right with you. Maybe your heart races when they enter the room, or you feel an inexplicable tension in the air. You might find yourself exhausted after interacting with them, even if the conversation seemed normal on the surface. That's your body trying to tell you something. It's sensing danger, manipulation, or negativity that your conscious mind hasn't yet fully registered. What's fascinating about these interactions is how subtle they can be. Sometimes the person isn't even doing anything overtly harmful. They might be polite, smiling, and saying all the right things. But still, something feels off. Maybe their words don't match their body language, or there's a coldness in their tone that they're trying to mask with friendliness. The Stoics would tell us to trust these feelings. In a world where actions often reveal more than words, our instincts can guide us to truths we might not consciously recognize. Think of it this way. You might be at a family gathering, and there's that one relative who, no matter how hard they try to blend in, always makes you feel unsettled. Everyone else is relaxed, but you feel tense and anxious when they're around. Or maybe it's a coworker who makes you feel drained after every interaction. You can't quite put your finger on it, but every time you speak with them, you leave the conversation feeling uneasy, as though you've been subtly undermined or manipulated. Even if they didn't say anything overtly cruel or negative, their energy leaves a mark. These experiences aren't just in your head. Our minds and bodies are incredibly adept at picking up on subtle cues, changes in tone, body language, or energy that we might not be fully aware of on a conscious level. The Stoics would argue that these sensations are part of our natural defenses. Marcus Aurelius wrote extensively about how we should remain vigilant, not just against external threats, but also against people whose intentions don't align with virtue. When you feel strange around someone, it's because there's something about their character or energy that is out of alignment with what you know to be good and true. In fact, this kind of unease can be a direct reflection of the Stoic belief in the unity of the self. When someone's intentions are harmful or manipulative, they create a dissonance in the environment. What they project on the outside doesn't match what's happening on the inside. And we, in turn, sense that dissonance. Their lack of harmony with their own actions creates an uncomfortable ripple effect that others can feel. It's the Stoic idea that everything in life is interconnected, and when someone is operating from a place of deceit, cruelty, or ill will, it sends shockwaves through the emotional space around them. It's important not to dismiss these feelings as just being paranoid or overreacting. Too often we second-guess ourselves, especially if there's no clear reason for our discomfort. But your intuition, your inner guide, is there for a reason. If you feel tense, drained, or simply off when you're around someone, it's worth taking a closer look at why. In many cases, these individuals are manipulating their way into your life, but your instincts are picking up on the emotional or psychological toll they're taking on you before you can consciously process it. The Stoics would advise that we stay calm but alert. Don't let your discomfort turn into anxiety or fear, but don't ignore it either. If you consistently feel uneasy around someone, take a step back and evaluate the situation. Are their actions or words subtly harmful? Do they drain your energy or leave you questioning your own thoughts and feelings? These are the red flags that your body has been trying to tell you about. Protect your peace. You don't have to explain it to anyone if someone just makes you feel wrong. You owe it to yourself to listen to that inner voice and take steps to guard your well-being. Number 4, they refuse responsibility for their actions. Another clear sign of someone with harmful intentions is their refusal to take responsibility for their actions. It's one thing to make mistakes, we all do, but it's how we handle those mistakes that truly reveals our character. The person we're talking about here never seems to acknowledge when they've done something wrong. Instead, they shift the blame onto others, play the victim, or come up with endless excuses. This type of behavior creates a toxic environment where nothing ever gets resolved, and you're left constantly questioning yourself, wondering if you're the one at fault when, in reality, they are the ones avoiding accountability. In Stoic philosophy, personal responsibility is everything. One of the core teachings of Stoicism is the understanding that while we can't control what happens to us, we can control how we respond. We are responsible for our actions, our words, and our choices. Epictetus often reminded his students that the true measure of a person's character is how they take ownership of their behavior. If someone refuses to do that, if they constantly shift the blame or refuse to admit their mistakes, they are fundamentally out of alignment with this principle. They are not only deceiving others, but also themselves, by refusing to face the truth of their own actions. We've all met people like this. Maybe it's a colleague who never owns up to a mistake at work. Something goes wrong on a project, and instead of acknowledging their part in it, they quickly point fingers at everyone else. Or perhaps it's a friend who constantly finds themselves in bad situations, relationship troubles, financial problems, or personal drama. But somehow, it's always someone else's fault. It's never their poor decisions or reckless actions that are to blame. It's the world, bad luck, or the people around them. The Stoics would remind us that this refusal to take responsibility is a form of weakness, a failure to accept reality as it is. One of the reasons this behavior is so dangerous is that it creates a cycle of manipulation. When someone refuses to take responsibility, they often make you feel like you're the one at fault. They're masters at twisting situations, making you apologize for things that aren't your fault, or worse, making you feel guilty for calling them out on their behavior. This emotional manipulation can take a serious toll on your mental health. Over time, you might start to question your own judgment, wondering if you really are the problem. But let's be clear, you're not. Someone who consistently refuses to take ownership of their actions is simply projecting their own failures onto you. What's worse is that these individuals rarely change. As long as they're able to deflect responsibility onto others, they will continue down this path. Why would they change if they never have to face the consequences of their actions? If no one holds them accountable, they have no reason to reflect, learn, or grow. They're stuck in a cycle of self-deception, and they drag others into that cycle with them. This is where Stoicism offers us guidance. You can't control their behavior, but you can control how much you allow it to affect you. When you recognize this pattern in someone, it's crucial to set boundaries. Don't let their refusal to take responsibility pull you into their drama. The more you engage with them on their terms, the more they will manipulate the situation to avoid facing the truth. Instead, take a step back. Hold your ground. You don't have to fix their problems or take on the burden of their mistakes. That's their work to do, not yours. So, what can you do when you encounter someone like this? First, recognize the behavior for what it is. Don't let them gaslight you into thinking their problems are your fault. Second, protect your own peace by setting clear boundaries. You're not responsible for managing their emotions or fixing their mistakes. Finally, remember that your responsibility is to yourself, your thoughts, your actions, your character. You are in control of how you live, and you don't need to carry the weight of someone else's avoidance. Stoicism teaches us to face life with courage and integrity, and that includes facing our mistakes. If someone refuses to do that, it's a sign they are not walking the same path as you. Number 5. They lie constantly. A constant habit of lying is one of the most obvious and destructive signs of an evil person. These aren't just the occasional little white lies that people sometimes tell to avoid hurting someone's feelings. No, we're talking about lies that are constant, unnecessary, and often serve to manipulate or control others. A person who lies as easily as they breathe is someone who cannot be trusted. They bend reality to suit their needs, distort the truth to gain an advantage, and undermine the very fabric of trust that holds relationships and communities together. What's truly insidious about habitual liars is how subtle their lies can be. They may start small, telling little half-truths to cover up minor mistakes, but over time, the lies escalate. Soon they're fabricating entire stories, exaggerating their achievements, or inventing excuses to avoid responsibility. The more they lie, the easier it becomes for them, and before long, lying becomes second nature. A person like this may even start to believe their own lies, losing their grip on what's real and what isn't. But here's the thing, the truth always comes out. Sooner or later, their web of deceit unravels, but by then, the damage is often already done. One of the reasons lying is so harmful is because it creates a deep sense of insecurity in those around the liar. When someone constantly distorts the truth, it becomes impossible to know what's real. You start second-guessing everything they say, wondering if anything they've told you has been genuine. This uncertainty can be emotionally exhausting, making you feel like you're always walking on shaky ground. The Stoics would advise us to step away from these situations, not just because the lies are harmful, but because they create unnecessary turbulence in our lives. What's particularly dangerous about a habitual liar is that they often don't seem like the stereotypical villain. They might appear friendly, charming, or even vulnerable. They use these traits to cover up their deceit, making you doubt your own instincts when you start to suspect something is off. But make no mistake, lying is a form of manipulation, and those who do it constantly are trying to bend others to their will. They create narratives that serve them, regardless of how those lies impact the people around them. You might feel tempted to call them out on every lie, to force them to see the truth, but often habitual liars are so deep in their own false narratives that they won't even acknowledge the truth when it's right in front of them. Instead, they'll likely double down, spinning more lies to cover the original ones. This is why it's essential to set clear boundaries. You can't force someone to live honestly, but you can decide how much access they have to your life. You can choose to distance yourself from their deceit, preserving your own integrity and mental clarity. The Stoics would also remind us that lying is fundamentally weak. A person who lies does so because they fear the truth. They fear the consequences of being honest, of facing reality head-on. Seneca said, "A liar is always lavish of oaths." They weave their falsehoods because they can't bear to deal with the truth of their own actions or circumstances. And as Stoicism teaches, true strength comes from facing reality with courage and honesty. A person who lies lacks that strength, and over time, their deceit will lead to their own downfall. When you recognize someone as a habitual liar, it's not your job to fix them or to uncover every lie they've told. Your responsibility is to yourself, to maintain your own truth, your own integrity, and to protect your peace of mind. Surround yourself with people who are committed to living truthfully, because those are the people who will help you grow, not pull you down into a web of deceit. Lies may offer temporary control or manipulation, but in the end, they always crumble under the weight of truth. The Stoics knew this, and it's a lesson worth remembering in our own lives. Number 6. They show no remorse. One of the most disturbing signs that you're dealing with an evil person is their complete lack of remorse. This goes beyond simply making mistakes. Everyone makes mistakes. What defines a person's character is how they respond when they realize they've caused harm or hurt someone. A person who shows no remorse when their actions negatively affect others is someone who lacks empathy, self-awareness, and a moral compass. They don't feel guilt for the damage they've done, and instead of apologizing or reflecting on their behavior, they often deflect or justify their actions. In Stoic philosophy, remorse is a crucial part of self-improvement. It's that inner voice that tells us we've strayed from the path of virtue, and it offers us an opportunity to correct course. Marcus Aurelius wrote extensively about the importance of self-reflection, looking at our thoughts, our actions, and their impact on others. He said, "If someone is able to show me that what I think or do is not right, I will happily change, for I seek the truth, by which no one has ever been truly harmed." Remorse is a sign that we recognize our imperfections and are willing to grow. But someone who feels no remorse has no interest in self-growth or aligning themselves with virtue. Instead, they are stuck in a mindset where their actions are always justified, no matter how much harm they cause. The Stoics believed that empathy and understanding are essential virtues. Seneca often spoke about the importance of considering others' perspectives and being mindful of the impact our actions have on the people around us. A person who shows no remorse is completely disconnected from these principles. They lack the empathy required to recognize that their actions have real consequences for other people. Instead of reflecting on their behavior, they may even try to twist the situation, making you feel like the problem. This is where their lack of remorse becomes particularly dangerous. They'll make you doubt your own feelings and perceptions, leaving you confused about who's really in the wrong. What's even more troubling is that people who don't feel remorse are often masters of manipulation. They'll use this lack of empathy to their advantage, manipulating situations to make it seem like they're the victim, even when they've clearly caused harm. You might find yourself in a situation where instead of receiving an apology, they turn the tables and make you feel guilty for even bringing up the issue. This tactic, often referred to as gaslighting, is a way to deflect responsibility and avoid accountability. It's their way of escaping any sense of guilt or remorse because, in their mind, they've done nothing wrong. One of the most toxic aspects of dealing with a person like this is the emotional toll it can take on you. Over time, you might find yourself walking on eggshells around them, afraid to confront their behavior because you know they won't feel bad about it. They've trained you, through their lack of remorse, to expect nothing in return. No apology, no acknowledgement of the pain they've caused. This can erode your confidence and make you feel as though your feelings don't matter. But the Stoics would remind us that our feelings and experiences do matter. While we can't control how others behave, we can control how we respond to that behavior. When you encounter someone who shows no remorse, the best course of action is to distance yourself as much as possible. Set clear boundaries and protect your own emotional well-being. The Stoics teach us to stay calm and steady in the face of adversity and part of that means recognizing when someone's behavior is harmful and taking steps to protect ourselves. You can't change someone who feels no guilt for their actions, but you can control how much influence they have over your life. One of the most important lessons from Stoicism is that true strength lies in vulnerability and accountability. It takes courage to admit when we're wrong, to feel remorse, and to make amends. People who refuse to do this are not strong. They're hiding from their own flaws, too afraid to face the consequences of their actions. Their lack of remorse may make them seem invulnerable, but in reality, they're deeply flawed individuals who are incapable of personal growth. The more they refuse to acknowledge their mistakes, the further they stray from the path of virtue. Number 7. Cruelty is part of their nature. When you encounter someone for whom cruelty is second nature, it's easy to feel disoriented. These are the types of people who seem to take joy in making others feel small or insignificant. Picture a co-worker who takes every opportunity to humiliate someone in front of others, making snide remarks about their abilities or pointing out their mistakes in the most public and demeaning way possible. Or imagine a so-called friend who constantly mocks your insecurities, not in a teasing, light-hearted way, but with the clear intention of making you feel inferior. These aren't people who are simply rough around the edges. These are people who deliberately seek to hurt others. Cruel people are often very good at hiding their intentions behind a mask of humor, sarcasm, or even helpfulness. They'll cloak their insults in jokes, or frame their attacks as just being honest, when in reality their honesty is weaponized. Seneca, another prominent Stoic philosopher, warned against this kind of behavior. He wrote that we must not become hardened to the pain of others, and we should actively work to be of service to the people around us. Cruelty, in contrast, shows a lack of empathy and a rejection of the Stoic ideal of helping others grow. The issue with cruelty is that it often goes unnoticed at first. These individuals can be charming and charismatic in the beginning, which makes it all the more jarring when their true nature starts to reveal itself. At first, their cruel comments or actions might be dismissed as them just having a bad day or being a little too blunt. But over time, the pattern becomes clear. They enjoy the power they feel when they hurt others. Whether it's emotional cruelty, like belittling someone's achievements, or physical cruelty, like using intimidation or violence, the goal is always the same: to exert dominance and make others feel powerless. Cruel people don't just stop at one victim either. Once they see that their cruelty has an effect, they continue, often escalating their behavior. Epictetus taught that we must be vigilant against people who live their lives contrary to virtue, for their influence can quickly pull us away from our own path. When we're around someone whose default mode is cruelty, it becomes harder to maintain our own sense of inner peace and balance. Their negative energy can seep into our lives, dragging us down with them if we're not careful. One of the reasons cruelty is so damaging is because it's often disguised as strength. Cruel people like to portray themselves as tough or strong, but real strength, according to the Stoics, comes from compassion, self-control, and wisdom. True strength is about lifting others up, not breaking them down. A cruel person may seem powerful in the moment. After all, they're the one doing the damage, but their cruelty actually reveals their weakness. They hurt others because they are deeply insecure or fearful. They need to see others suffer to feel any sense of power or control in their own lives. This is why it's so important to recognize cruelty for what it is and to respond with the Stoic mindset of apatheia, or emotional detachment. That doesn't mean you ignore cruelty or pretend it doesn't exist, but rather that you refuse to let it control your emotional state. When you encounter someone whose nature is cruel, the Stoics would advise you to set firm boundaries. Don't engage with their cruelty, and don't let it affect how you see yourself. As Marcus Aurelius often reminded himself, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. It's tempting to confront a cruel person directly, to challenge their behavior, or try to make them see the harm they're causing. But here's the truth. Cruel people rarely change. Their cruelty is often so ingrained in their identity that they don't even see it as a problem. They may even take your confrontation as a challenge and double down on their behavior. Stoicism teaches us to accept what we cannot change, and in many cases, you cannot change the heart of a cruel person. What you can do is control your reaction and distance yourself from their influence. Another thing to remember about cruelty is that it can be contagious. If we're not careful, spending too much time around cruel people can start to affect our own behavior. We might become more cynical, more defensive, or even start to adopt some of their negative traits as a way to protect ourselves. This is why the Stoics emphasized the importance of surrounding ourselves with people who embody virtue. Seneca wrote, "Associate with those who will make a better man of you. Welcome those whom you yourself can improve." In other words, be mindful of the company you keep, because the people around you have a profound impact on your own character. Number 8. Friends and family. Warn you about them. Often, we're emotionally attached to the person in question, whether it's a romantic partner, a new friend, or even a colleague. These emotional ties can cloud our judgment, making us defend the person who's causing harm or downplay the seriousness of their behavior. It's human nature to want to believe the best in people, especially if we're invested in the relationship. However, the Stoics taught that rationality must always prevail over emotion. Epictetus often emphasized the need to see things as they are, not as we wish them to be. If multiple people in your life are cautioning you about someone's character, it's time to take a step back and evaluate the situation objectively. Think about a time when your friends or family warned you about someone, and maybe you brushed it off at first. You might have told yourself they don't know the person like you do, or they're just being overprotective. But over time, their concerns start to make more sense. You notice the subtle manipulations, the inconsistency in the person's behavior, or the way they treat others when they think no one's looking. These are often the behaviors that your loved ones were trying to warn you about. The Stoics would remind us that we must always be open to the truth, even when it's uncomfortable. Sometimes that truth comes from the people who love us the most. One reason we may resist these warnings is that it's hard to admit we've made a mistake in judgment. We don't want to acknowledge that we've been deceived, that someone we trusted may not have been worthy of that trust. But the Stoics teach that there's no shame in being wrong, only in refusing to correct the course once you realize it. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If someone can show me my mistake, I will gladly change, for it is the truth I seek, and the truth never harmed anyone." Ignoring the concerns of friends and family because of pride or emotional attachment can lead to even greater pain down the road. Sometimes the people closest to you might notice behaviors that you've normalized. Maybe the person is controlling, but you've started to view their control as caring too much. Maybe they make subtle digs at your self-esteem, but you've convinced yourself that they're just joking, that you're being too sensitive. It's in moments like these that your friends and family can be a voice of reason, reminding you that healthy relationships don't come with strings attached or hidden agendas. The Stoics believed that true friendship and love are based on mutual respect, kindness, and honesty. When those elements are missing, the relationship is fundamentally flawed, no matter how much we want to convince ourselves otherwise. Another important Stoic concept that applies here is the value of perspective. Sometimes when we're too close to a situation, we lose the ability to see it clearly. We become emotionally entangled, and our vision gets clouded by our hopes, fears, or desires. Friends and family, however, aren't tangled up in the same way. They can offer a fresh, objective view that we're unable to access on our own. As Seneca wisely noted, you must know for which harbor you are headed if you are to catch the right wind to take you there. If the people who care about you are warning you that the harbor you're heading for is filled with rocks, it's worth adjusting your sails before you get hurt. Sometimes, we may also dismiss the concerns of our loved ones because we think we're different from everyone else. We believe that somehow we can handle this person, that we won't fall into the same traps that others did. Maybe the person in question has a bad reputation, but you tell yourself, they won't treat me that way, or our relationship is different. But here's the truth. Character patterns don't change that easily. If someone has a history of manipulation, cruelty, or deceit, chances are it's only a matter of time before they show their true colors with you as well. This is where the Stoic principle of prudence comes in, acting with foresight and wisdom, rather than walking blindly into a situation hoping for the best. The key takeaway here is that when multiple people who care about you are waving red flags, it's time to stop and listen. The Stoics emphasize the importance of surrounding yourself with wise, virtuous people who could help you make better choices in life. Marcus Aurelius even kept a journal to remind himself to stay humble, open to advice, and willing to change course when necessary. If you find yourself defending someone's harmful behavior against the concerns of your loved ones, it's worth asking yourself why. Are you holding on to something that's not serving you? Are you allowing your emotions to blind you to reality? At the end of the day, your friends and family want the best for you. Their warnings aren't coming from a place of jealousy, control, or negativity. They're coming from a place of love and care. The Stoics teach us to listen to wise counsel and to recognize when we're too close to a situation to see it clearly. If your loved ones are telling you that someone in your life isn't treating you well or has harmful intentions, it's time to pause and take stock. You deserve relationships that are rooted in virtue, honesty, and respect. Number 9. They show contempt for others. One of the clearest signs that you're dealing with someone who doesn't have your best interests at heart is when they show contempt for others. Contempt is more than just criticism or disagreement. It's a deep, ingrained disdain for another person's worth. When someone shows contempt, they're communicating that they see others as beneath them, as somehow unworthy of respect, kindness, or even basic human decency. This attitude can be incredibly damaging, not just to those on the receiving end, but to anyone who has to witness or be around that kind of toxic energy. People who exhibit contempt often do so subtly at first. It might be a sneer when someone else is talking, or a sarcastic comment that belittles someone's ideas, dreams, or accomplishments. But over time, the pattern becomes clearer. They don't just disagree with others, they genuinely believe that other people are inferior to them. You might see this in the way they talk down to people, dismiss others' feelings, or constantly criticize someone's appearance, choices, or lifestyle. What's particularly insidious about contempt is that it's not always loud or overt. It can be expressed quietly, through a disapproving glance, a smug tone, or a casual insult disguised as a joke. If you've ever had a boss, friend, or partner who constantly made you feel small or unworthy, you've likely experienced the damaging effects of contempt firsthand. These are the people who, no matter how hard you try or how much you accomplish, will always find a way to criticize or diminish your efforts. It's not that they're offering constructive feedback or guidance. They're actively looking for ways to make you feel less than. This can take a serious toll on your self-esteem and mental well-being. The Stoics would advise us to be very wary of anyone who tries to strip away our sense of dignity in this way. What's especially dangerous about contempt is that it often masquerades as superiority. People who show contempt usually see themselves as more intelligent, more accomplished, or more together than the people they look down on. But this is a false superiority, a shield they use to protect their own fragile sense of self. Another aspect of contempt is how it poisons relationships. Whether it's in a friendship, romantic relationship, or even a workplace, contempt erodes the basic foundation of respect that every healthy interaction needs to survive. When someone treats others with contempt, they create a toxic environment where mutual understanding and trust can't exist. You can't have a genuine connection with someone who constantly belittles or devalues you. One of the most insidious ways that contempt manifests is in close relationships. A partner or family member who constantly points out your flaws or mocks your dreams is using contempt as a weapon. It's not just criticism or tough love, it's a deliberate attempt to undermine your sense of self-worth. Over time, this can lead to feelings of worthlessness and helplessness, making you question your own value. Epictetus would remind us that we can't control how others behave, but we can control how much power we give them over our inner state. If someone in your life is showing contempt toward you, it's essential to recognize it for what it is, a reflection of their own shortcomings, not of your worth. Remember, the way others treat you says more about them than it ever will about you. Protect your peace, set firm boundaries, and always choose to walk the path of virtue, no matter who crosses your path. Life is too short to be weighed down by the negativity or cruelty of others. You deserve relationships built on respect, kindness, and integrity. So stay strong, stay true, and remember the words of Marcus Aurelius. The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts. Thank you for being a part of Stoic Journal. If you found this video helpful, there's more wisdom waiting for you. Just click one of the suggested videos on your screen. Let's continue this journey together toward a life of clarity, peace, and purpose. Until next time, be well and stay grounded in virtue.